Namaste and hello everyone. Welcome to my channel, the Metaphysical Library. In today's video, I'm here to share a couple of books which I plan to read in the month of July. Now, as you all know, this channel, the Metaphysical Library, is dedicated to reading about metaphysics, the spiritual sciences of various religions and spiritual paths, as well as some interesting non-fiction about neuroscience, psychology, psychiatry, and a couple of other things. Now, it won't be psychiatry exactly, it will be psychology, but it will be common things which we usually try to wonder about, and maybe in case if it sparks its interest in any of you, you probably would find it very interesting to watch the reviews that I do of the books that I read, as well as the kind of books that I'll be reading on this channel. So this month I have dedicated to reading Aristotle's philosophy, as well as a bit about Jane Austen. Now, as you all know, Jane Austen was a very famous English writer who lived during the Regency era, and this month, in the month of July, all Janeites all across the world try to commemorate her works, and on YouTube, specifically on booktube, we do have a readathon which is ongoing, which is called Jane AustenJuly, and it has been hosted by three wonderful people, and I will leave the links down below. So in case if you're interested, and if you are a Jane Austen fan, or if you love reading Jane Austen's works, do please join us in that readathon. And on this particular channel, I will be reading a couple of non-fiction works. In fact, I won't be reading them, I would be listening to them, because I've acquired most of them in audiobooks. So I will be sharing all of that in the video further. So do please join me further in this video. So the first book which I have chosen to read for this month is called Aristotle for Everybody, which has been written by Mortimer Adler. And as the name suggests, this book is written for anybody who is above the age of 12. So it is actually for middle graders, but definitely everybody can read it. So from the back of the book, it reads as: Aristotle, 384 to 322 BC, taught logic to Alexander the Great, and by virtue of his philosophical works to every philosopher since, from Marcus Aurelius to Thomas Aquinas to Mortimer J. Adler. Now, Adler instructs the world in the uncommon common sense of Aristotelian logic, presenting Aristotle's understanding in a currently delightfully lucid way. He brings Aristotle's work to an everyday level. By encountering readers to think philosophically, Adler offers us a unique path to personal insights and understanding of intangibles, such as the difference between wants and needs, the proper way to pursue happiness, and the right plan for a good life. This is a self-help book in the best sense of term. The Aristotelian wisdom Adler affords us goes far beyond anything for all Norman Vincent Peale's, Michael Cordes, and Wayne W. Dyer's combined have to offer. Above all, Adler once again demonstrates that philosophy, real philosophy that is, can actually be useful. So this is a very interesting book, and it can be read by people of approximately all age groups. So it is actually a middle grade read, and it's given in a very simplistic way. So this is the first book that I would be reading for this month of July. Now, the second book which I have chosen is actually a classic, and it's called The Philosophy of Aristotle, and here is the book. I really like the cover of the book. It's really classic. So this has been published by Signet Classics, and from the back of the book, it reads as, the aim of this book is to stress the importance of Aristotle's discussion of problems that still perplex and preoccupy philosophers of the present day. For this book, I have chosen a selection from the texts of Aristotle that relate most directly to the philosophical questions still being debated today, writes Renford Bambro. How is the mind related to the body? To what end is the human life to be directed? What is the place of the individual in a human society? What are the ultimate categories of thoughts and the basic constituents of the universe? More than 2,000 years ago, Aristotle's investigation into these questions established unique standards of philosophical inquiry, observation, and judgment. This book offers a selection and a contemporary re-evaluation of the philosophy of the master of Western thought and shows his vital continuing influence in our modern world. So this is one book which I'm planning to read, and hopefully I should be able to complete this book this month and share most of the important points with all of you. So those are the two books which I'm reading, which are the physical copies. Now there are various audiobooks which I will be reading, which I'll be sharing further on in the video. So the first is called Jane on the Brain, which is all about Jane Austen, which has been, I would say, scrutinized and studied by doctor who was practicing neuroscience. So it's Jane Austen from a neuroscience point of view, and how exactly Jane Austen affects our brain, why she's loved all over the world, and what makes us connect with her so easily through her works. There is another book which I will also be sharing further on, which is called Sense and Sensibilia, which has been written by Aristotle. It's a very short work, and it's a part of his greater works. So I will try and append those books or the audiobooks so that you can have a good glimpse of it. There is another book which I've been reading listening to about Jane Austen, which is all about Jane Austen's history. Let's see how many audiobooks I can complete this month. So I'll just be sharing the audiobooks with you further on. The first audiobook that I'm planning on listening for this month is called On Sense and the Sensible by Aristotle. This book has been narrated by Jean Norman. Now, about this book, Sense and Sensibilia, as it was known originally, is one of the short treatises by Aristotle that make up the Parva Naturalia. He discusses attributes like those that are common to all living things. They include waking and sleeping, youth and old age, inhalation and exhalation, life and death. The second audiobook that I'm listening in this month is called The Story of Western Science, From the Writings of Aristotle to Big Bang Theory by Susan Wise Bauer, which has been narrated by Julian Elfer. About this book is a riveting roadmap to the development of modern scientific thought. Far too often, public discussions of science is carried out by journalists, voters, and politicians who have received the science secondhand. The story of Western science shows us the joy and importance of reading groundbreaking science writing for ourselves and guides us back to the masterpieces that have changed the way we think about our world, our cosmos, and ourselves. This book leads us through the first science texts by Hippocrates, Plato, and Aristotle through 20th century classics in biology, physics, and cosmology. The story of Western science illuminates everything from mankind's earliest inquiries to the butterfly effect, from the birth of scientific method to the rise of earth science and the flowering of modern biology. This book delivers an accessible, entertaining, and illuminating springboard into the scientific education you never had. The third audiobook that I'm listening for this month is all about Jane Austen. So it is called Jane on the Brain, Exploring the Science of Social Intelligence, written by Wendy Jones, and this has been narrated by Cassandra Campbell. So about this book, from the back of this book, it reads as, Why is Jane Austen so phenomenally popular? Why do we go back to Pride and Prejudice again and again? Why do we delight in Emma's mischievous schemes? Why do we care that Anne Elliot of Persuasion suffers? We care because it is our biological destiny to be interested in people and their stories. The human brain is a social brain, and Austen's characters are so believable that for many of us they are not just imaginary beings but friends whom we know and love. But thanks to Austen's ability to capture the breadth and depth of human psychology so thoroughly, we feel that she emphasizes with us, her readers and listeners. Humans have a profound need for empathy, to know that we are not alone with our joys and sorrows. And then there is detachment, denial, narcissism, and of course, love, to name a few. We see for ourselves and others reflected in Austen's work. Social intelligence is one of the most highly developed human traits when compared with other animals. How does it evolve? Why is it so valuable? Wendy Jones explores the many facets of social intelligence and juxtaposes them with Austen's canon. The fourth audiobook that I'm planning on listening for this month is called A Brief Guide to Jane Austen, Brief Histories by Charles Jennings. This has been narrated by Nigel Carrington. From the back of this book, it reads as, Jane Austen is a mystery. The first incontrovertibly great women novelist, she is, among other things, one of the finest prose stylists in literature, the first truly modern writer, the godmother of chick lit. She is also the greatest enigma in English literature, just next to Shakespeare. Soldiers in the First World War sat in the trenches and read her novels for the civilizing comforts they provided. Hard-nut literary critics such as F.R. Lewis lauded their austere complexity. World Book Day 2007 found that Pride and Prejudice was the one book the nation can't live without. In this witty, accessible guide, Charles Jennings goes in search of this enigma through her works as well as her times, including a short biography, an overview of the novels as well as the world she inhabited. Finally, the book contains Jane's very own words of advice for modern life. So that's all I have for today, and I hope to join you next week soon with another video about what all I will be reading this week. So do please join me next week again, and till then, take care, have a good reading week ahead, and namaste.